Welcome back, everybody. Another edition here of the Auburn Undercover Podcast on the 24/7 Sports Network. My name is Nathan King, joined here by Ronnie Sanders and our biweekly guest, Jay Jacobs, former Auburn athletic director. Got a lot to get into today, but Jay, first just want to talk about on Monday. I know you and I were both there at Bruce Pearl's annual For the Children golf fundraiser event. Just talk about what it was like getting to catch up with Bruce again, and obviously, you know, for Children's Harbor and Children's of Alabama, that's just been a tremendous cause that Bruce has been at the forefront of for quite some time now.
It has been, Nathan. It's good to be with you and Ronnie and to Warrigal, everybody. But yeah, the Bruce Pearl Family Foundation is partnered with Children's Harbor at Lake Martin, and if you're not familiar with Children's Harbor, it is a place. They'll have starting, I think, this next weekend, they'll have about 5,000 children with some type of disability or illness or ailment there at Children's Harbor, enjoying some time at beautiful Lake Martin. And so what Bruce is partnering with them is to raise money. And I think to date, they've raised over $1 million for Children's Harbor. And I believe it's about 41,000 people have been able to use the facility in Birmingham so that when a family can stay there, so that when your child is being treated there in Birmingham at Children's Hospital or wherever it may be, they can stay there at Children's Harbor facility. And Bruce has he has a huge heart for this ministry and this mission. And it was a lot of fun yesterday playing golf at the new Wicker Point golf course by Russell Lands at Lake Martin. I never had been out there before. Went out and played yesterday, and had, I think, 26 teams play in that. But it was a beautiful day and a great cause. And at the end of that, Bruce's Family Foundation gave $50,000 to the ministry that Chad Pruitt and his wife Tanya started a couple of years back, that they go on college campuses and have a one-night revival to bring college students in to celebrate and worship Jesus Christ. So Bruce got him off to a good start, because we've all heard in the last week that Chad is moving away from men's basketball. He's been doing it. He's been a coach in basketball for 30 years, and we all know what a grind that is. So good for him to, the God has laid this ministry on him, and he's gonna walk away from Auburn basketball, but not walk away from Auburn, obviously, but go and try to help change this world by changing lives each day with their ministry. So great day yesterday at Wicker Point, and great for Children's Harbor, and great for the Bruce Pearl Family Foundation, and all those that were a part of that and contribute to a great cause to help others that can't help themselves. That's what that's all about, is to, when people are ill or having a hard time, sometimes just a little bit helps. And what they're doing is more than a little bit, but every little bit helps. So it's such a blessing to be a part of that.
Nathan, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I mean, I was just gonna say, we were talking about before we got rolling. It's wild to think that Bruce has been here for so long now. He'll be going into his 12th season at Auburn, but the off the court impact he's made here has almost been as large as on the court. I mean, anytime you have a conversation with him, he talks about how many players they've graduated, their graduation rate. I know that's something that he takes pride in. I know you and I, all of us on this podcast, Jay, have had conversations about, why you guys decided to hire him. And, that passion for not just the game of basketball, but, for wherever he's going to be. I know that was a big part of things as well, because he's fully embraced Auburn and made it his place.
There's no doubt about it. He epitomizes what the Auburn creed's all about. He has a spirit that's not afraid. He loves human mankind, and he loves people. And he believes in work and hard work, and he does it every day. But it is hard to believe that it's been over a decade since he came to campus. But his involvement it's just so important to the Auburn people. I mean, we certainly want to win, and that's why we want to be, an everything school. We want to win everything that we do, and we can talk about it later. But the men's golf team is headed to Carlsbad. They're already out in Carlsbad, California, defending their national championship over the next week or so. But Bruce, he really epitomizes what the Auburn spirit's about. He just, I'll never forget one of the first public meetings I was in with him. He gave everybody in the audience his cell phone number. And so I thought, holy smoke, how's he going to do this? But he just has a passion and it's just intuitive for him. He just connects with people. And, not only for helping those who can't help themselves, but, he is a proponent of what's going on in Israel because he has a tremendous history and knowledge of that land and that religious region and what it means to him and his family. And he goes about it the right way. I mean, he's speaking, he was in New York this week speaking. He'll be in different places speaking truth about what is happening around the world and how that would impact, our generations behind us. And he's just an unbelievable ambassador. I don't know of, so there's probably some people listening that would have a better sense of it. I don't know who that would be, but maybe. But I don't know of any two athletic hires that we've had, people in athletics, than Pat Dye and Bruce Pearl that have impacted the trajectory of Auburn University, not just athletics. We've hired some really great coaches that have really impacted their program in Auburn athletics, but nationwide and even with Bruce globally, the positive impact that he's had for Auburn University. So he's a real blessing, and I don't see him slowing down anytime soon. And when he does, he'll have to find something to do because there's no on-off switch with him. It's full tilt, but just a lot of fun to watch and be a part of, and it's certainly, to get a chance to go to the Final Four. Ooh, that's hard to do, and they've been twice. So, and he's having to reload this year, and NIL comes into play. So it's just it's interesting times, but fun times, and just such a blessing to have him and all of our other current head coaches at Auburn leading the program and leading these young men and women. They have such a huge impact on them in a positive way.
Talk a little bit about, you mentioned the impact Bruce has had and how he's gotten into the community and all those things. We had a Pete Jenkins on the podcast last week, and he was talking about, he said, there's something about Auburn. He said, people come back to Auburn. Jack Hines, he said, is living back in Auburn now. He said, people get fired at Auburn, they move on, and they come back when they retire. He said, people don't come back to Baton Rouge. He said, talk a little bit about the Auburn community and how it's different, why people come back and why they stay.
Yeah. I'm one of those that came back. We were at the University of Florida for 5 years, and we came back a little over a year ago. And somebody made the comment and said, Auburn's a sticky place. It's hard to get away from it. It is. And it's not just for, people like, coaches and administrators in athletics in the university. I mean, look at the place, the way it's growing. It has a lot to do with the university. You have a lot to do there in the culture of the university, the leadership with President Chris Roberts. It is a, I don't think this is an overstatement, but it is a pure, transparent university. There are no undercurrents and those type things you have to worry about. It's a safe campus. It's a great place to get an education. There's a lot of passion. And, I think that has a lot to do. I think the what the leadership, the civic leadership has done with all the, with the school system is a great place to raise a family with the school system and the community and the values that we all have there. You have to work hard to protect those. It takes 3 to 5 years to develop a culture. It takes about 30 or 60 days to destroy one. That doesn't mean that we don't have issues. I'm not saying there's not issues, but the majority, the overwhelming sense of it is it's a great place to live. Great place to get out on the streets and go to Toomer's Corner or College Street and different places, even Opelika, Tiger Town, and what they've done downtown. It is just a really, I think one way to say it is a wholesome environment. I'm not saying other places don't have that. I'm just saying that's what we have at Auburn, and it starts, I believe, with the town and gown. It starts with the city and the university, being lockstep with what those values are, and it's just a great place. It's a great place to be because there's so many things to do as well. Is that when you come back to Auburn, there's so many different events you can do, go attend. With the Gooch Center now as well. Just a lot of different things to do, and it's a really positive environment.
You may not know, but I how many former head coaches are living back in Auburn now? I know there are a lot of them. I know. I guess Sonny Smith still lives in town, and Chiswick, and I know there are a bunch of guys that are still around.
Yeah, I mean, Gene still lives there. Spends a lot of time at Auburn. Coach Smith, he and his wife, they live there. Coach Mike Griffin, our former golf coach, he still lives there. Eric Shore, our former tennis coach, he's still there. Karen Hoppe, our recent retired soccer coach, she's there. So I mean, it's a lot of people that either stay there or come back. It has a lot to do with the community, how people care about each other in Auburn. Certainly we're passionate, we want to win, but people still have that kindred spirit, that spirit of being polite and courteous, and realizing that there are more important things than athletics. Being kind to your fellow man, treating people the way you want to be treated. So, but there, Ronnie, there's a lot. I've never thought about it, but there are a lot. Kim Evans, our former women's golf coach, she's there and very much involved in the community. So, a lot of different people that I'm familiar with from athletics live in Auburn. Either have continued to live there, or they came back. So, it's pretty cool. Pretty cool place to be.
Go ahead, Nathan. You had a question?
I was just gonna make a point of this is a little bit off topic, but I was downtown on Sunday night seeing some family and walked past the team shop, and it said 50% off sale, all Under Armour. Isn't that bizarre to think about?
It is bizarre.
I guess it makes sense, but in a couple months' time they'll be entering a new apparel era. It's still strange to think about.
Yeah, it is. And, it was, to some people, it was strange that we picked Under Armour. We'd been with Russell Athletics for 75 years. And when we saw the different trajectory of Russell Athletics at the time, even though they still had MLB, and we went out to market just to see how well our brand could do, because we're continuously trying to generate revenue to support our student athletes. So you can't just always do that with increasing the ticket prices. But when we went out there in 2005, and Nike, which is not unusual for them, they were the top of the market. Their response was, if you'd like to do business with us, let us know and we'll do it, but we're not going to be part of an RFP or bid process. And that's where they were. But Kevin Plank, the founder and CEO of Under Armour, he came to town and sat and visited with us. And it was interesting, guys, how some of our listeners will remember the first commercial you may remember with Under Armour, where all those young people on a bus with their football uniforms on, except their shoulder pads, and they were slapping on their thigh pads, that chant. And it was so interesting, y'all. We were holding those meetings over in the Louder Academic Building, and I came out of one of those meetings with about 4 football players standing there and said, "Richard Jacobs, we got to go with Under Armour." I said, "Why?" He said, "The commercials are so cool. Everybody's going to Under Armour. Let's go to Under Armour." And as we went through the process, more of those guys were saying that there were some problems, that we had to overcome. The shoe issue, and some uniforms they didn't have, like gymnastics. But man, thank goodness that we went with them. And people were fussing that you go with Under Armour. Well, the only reason you go with Nike is people implied that, you could get players. Well, if you're getting players through a shoe deal, then somebody's doing something that's not right. But I'll never forget talking to Bruce about it after when we were hiring him. I said, hey, now we're in Under Armour. And he said, well, the next player I get from Nike will be the first player I got. So, and then, a few years later, 2 of the Final Four teams, Auburn being one, are wearing Under Armour tennis shoes in the Final Four. So, but people just use that excuses. But Under Armour stepped up to the plate now. They had some issues with their shoes, and contractually we had it built. We had a basket built in that if the shoes didn't work for us, we could go buy whatever shoes we wanted to. We just had a great contract. But it is interesting. It's a good time to talk about change, and sometimes change is good. So I was at the University of Florida, and we had Nike, and we had Jumpman, which is a completely different segment of the market for Nike. We had the Jumpman. At the time, there's only like 5 schools that had Jumpman. That sort of set us apart. So, but today's day, I'm not sure that matters at all to a prospective student athlete. They're more concerned about, or at least their parents are more concerned about how much money they're going to get. And then they go buy their own shoes if they want to. And I know that there's a school or two that are considering just completely doing away with shoe deals and letting the student athletes pick whatever shoe they want to and just go with it. Because they can make money off NIL, then why not? So anyway, different time, things have changed, but Under Armour provided great finances for our athletics department so we could do a lot of things and win a lot of championships. And, things change, and that's changing, and wish Under Armour and Nike nothing but the best.
How difficult a decision was that, knowing that it'd been 75 years with Russell?
It was challenging, particularly when you get a call from the governor. Governor Bob Riley called me and said, Jay, what you got going on down there? I said, well, we're shopping our apparel rights, Governor. And he said, Russell's been in this business and in this state for working with y'all for over 75 years. And, as the governor, I need to call and just reach out and let you know their importance. And I said, hey, nobody understands it better than you. And now I understand it as well as you do, Governor. But I got to do what I think's best for Auburn. And if Under Armour can provide some financial support that others can't, then we're going to go with Under Armour or Adidas or Nike, whoever it may be. And he said, so you're going to make a business decision? I said, absolutely. He said, I can support that 100%. You make a good business decision, what's best for Auburn athletics, then I can support that. I just want you to be aware of how I felt about Russell. I said, yes, sir. I feel the same way. And we all do and still do. So anyway, that was a tough decision. It was such a big change for everybody. But people don't realize we were wearing Nike shoes, Russell football outfits, and we didn't have anything across the board. People may not realize that today because everything's, one brand. I see where Tennessee's going to market, and talking about what they're going to do. But it was to answer your question, Ron, it was a tough decision because it impacted so many people. The people live 45 minutes away in Alexander City at Russell Mills. But what I had to decide was, what's best for Auburn? What gives us the best opportunity to move forward financially and with a brand that we were going to be their top brand. We're not going to be one of many. We're going to be their top brand. And you all may remember that, they had a commercial with Tuberville and all different kind of things they did. And what they did for us at the national championship in 2010, all the advertising they did out there in Phoenix, it was really great for the Auburn brand. More people learned about Auburn through going to championships and through the advertisement that Kevin Plank and Under Armour put out there than you could ever afford to do.
Nathan?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see, like you mentioned, the impact of Nike coming in, just because it's such an unknown for like an Auburn sphere. It seems like everybody else, around the SEC has maybe toyed with it once or again, but I think Bruce Pearl has touched on it before, like you mentioned, Jay, of like if a shoe brand is the reason that a player is between one or two schools, then it's probably not the right, tree for you to be barking up anyway. And look, and Bruce and this roster and Auburn's football recruiting under Hugh Freeze have had no issues with the with the current apparel deal. But at the same time, I think, like you mentioned, with Auburn, having championship viewpoints with Under Armour, I think they will try to maximize those first couple months. And I think it wouldn't be insignificant for Auburn football to have a nice season this fall in the new Nike threads and jerseys, just to kind of get that going off on the right foot.
Yeah, exactly. And just to remind everybody, we wore Nike shoes back in the 80s and 90s. We wore Nike cleats and shoes back then. So hey, it'll be great. It'll be great because because they're going to make it great. They're going to be great business partners, and I'm confident that Auburn has made a deal that is really good for Auburn and the student athletes, and it's going to be great. And Under Armour was great for us at the time that they stepped in and made us their number one premier school. And but Kevin Plank, his leadership and what it meant to Auburn and Auburn athletics gave us a catalyst and boosted us along, and it was most helpful. And I know that Nike will do the same. It'll be fun to watch and it'll be fun to get new apparel.
Speaking of new apparel, there's a constant debate on our message board about alternate uniforms. Talk about that a little bit for football.
Yeah, I was never in favor of that.
Me either.
Well, the reason I wasn't, the reason I wasn't is that now at Florida we did some alternative uniforms. We did some black and did some different things. I always liked your traditional idea, and for you younger listeners, don't let traditional scare you to death. I like the idea of being able to turn the television on and look without hearing anything and know that's Auburn playing, because we were consistent with our uniform, and it was a very clean look. The white jerseys or the blue jerseys, and that's it. We quit wearing those orange jerseys in 1980 when Tennessee beat the brakes off of us. There at home, and I guess it was 44-0 or something like that at halftime, and that's how the game ended. But Coach Barfield's last year. But I've never really embraced that. It's not to my liking.
I'm not sure that Nathan, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'd say probably 95% of our message board agrees with Jay.
Yes, I think that's right. Yeah.
Now, what we did do sometimes, it'd be interesting to hear what your people message board say. What we did do sometimes was do a throwback uniform, throwback and put the numbers on the side of the helmet. I think we did that a couple of times, but it was a traditional Auburn uniform. I just, if you're trying to do something marketing wise, man, don't screw around with the uniform. Just win ball games. That helps marketing more than anything else. But I just like the traditional white on white and blue on white, and here we go. But if you did a throwback occasion, that'd be fun to do. But other than that, I'll tell you this. So one year, here's my rationale. I put a bigger logo for A-Day on the side of our helmet. Okay, I didn't tell anybody. Okay, because the helmets had gotten a lot bigger. And I thought, well, the AU is the same size, so why don't we put a little bit bigger one on there? Well, I put it on there for that Saturday, and the equipment room people, they started telling people about it, and all of a sudden there's this uproar, we're changing the logo, and I said, just, okay, forget it. Even though I was doing it from a branding standpoint, so you could, the logo was proportional to the size of the helmet, because back in the 70s and 80s, the helmets weren't as big as they are now. That's just a fact. And so I thought, let's just make the logo on the side of the block AU, same age, we made it a fraction bigger, not even a half an inch, maybe it was a quarter of an inch. Anyway, so, the lesson with that is don't be screwing around with Auburn uniform. Don't do that. Just win ball games and don't worry about it. I mean, Penn State, Nebraska, Texas, all those guys, they won a bunch of ball games not messing with the uniform. But there are other schools that change them up pretty regularly. Like a Florida, and they won championship after championship. So it's just never been my my deal. So anyway, I wanted to bring up the thing about the logo on the side of the helmet. I can't remember what year that was, but somewhere between probably 08 and 15, something like that. I don't remember what year we did that.
It's interesting. There are only a handful. You mentioned a couple of them. You got USC, I guess, Auburn, Alabama, Penn State. Not many more. that never change.
Yeah, LSU.
They'll wear white sometimes, or a white helmet.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. And you always wear. They always wear their dark color when they come to your place too. So,
that's right.
Yeah,
that's an interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting. It's interesting, and so we all voted. Okay, we'll let them do that. We don't. I mean, does it really matter? And the same thing with the Cowbells of Mississippi State. We all voted. Okay, let them give it a try and see if they can make this thing work. Keep their tradition, which is, and they've done a great job with it. It's not a distraction, but boy, at one time, those Cowbells made those, whatever it is they had in that stadium, 50 or 60,000 sound a lot more. But it's a great tradition for Mississippi State. So sometimes, you have to hear the whole side of the story before you understand what's happening. And, one of my sayings is I try to do is understand before being understood. And that's just a good life lesson in anything that you do. So anyway, I like our uniforms.
I do too.
I didn't like it when we did the shadowing, the number shadowing. You were probably there, Ronnie.
Oh, the drop shadow?
Huh?
I was. A lot of people didn't like it. I didn't mind it, but I was there. I remember Takio's uniform, but I remember that's one that pops out at me. The whole team was wearing it, obviously, but I'm as I've gotten older, I'm more a fan of the traditional, the drop shot. I'm not sure whose idea that was, but it didn't last very long.
Yeah, I think it was the head coach's idea, but it didn't last long. It looked a little. But I mean, you have to understand. I mean, they're trying to do different things. So anyway,
talk a little. We got the baseball tournament coming up.
Yeah,
talk a little bit about. Let's preview that and talk a little bit about Butch Thompson.
Oh man, what a great guy! The key to the baseball right now is being one of the top 8 seeds, so that if you win your regional, you get to be a super regional host. And so, boy, there's just a lot of teams on the bubble in there. On that baseball committee is going to have to make a decision here next week after the SEC tournament as to who the top 8 seeds are. And I really don't know where Auburn stands in that with the top 8. You guys may know. We were number 2 in the nation in a couple of polls going into the Ole Miss weekend, and fortunately, what you can't allow to happen is get swept on the road, and so they didn't, and so they won 1 out of 3 there, and have a bye this week as they move to the SEC tournament. So whether they win a game or get a couple of wins, I don't know, but the key is in all likelihood we're going to host a regional. I think it'd be really odd not to, but to be one of the top 8 seeds, so you could host the next weekend if you come out of your regional as a winner, be the super regional, which I know all the listeners know that'd just be 2 teams. It'd be Auburn and one other team playing the best 2 out of 3. So fun time. It's I think the world of Butch Thompson. He stands for everything that's right about Auburn and people and, man, just class and character and integrity. Just a great guy. And he finally, with the help of On to Victory, finally got some NIL money coming into this year. It was interesting talking to him before this year. I know a school that's Butch had a number for NIL, and I know one school, they used all that same number just for their pitchers. So baseball was way behind last year in NIL. And I know that, some traditional fans are tired of talking about NIL. Fact of the matter is that it's just the way it is. And, Charles Barkley had a big saying about that here recently about, paying players. But the fact of the matter is that is the world we're in right now. And so, you either get in it or you don't. And so anyway, but Butch it seems to have gotten some some funding so you can compete at the level of the SEC. And if you can compete in the SEC, you can compete nationally. So I'm excited. I'm excited and excited to hopefully be a national seed and definitely watch some NCAA tournament baseball here in a week and a half.
Yeah, what does it say about, you mentioned Butch a little bit, but last year just felt like such a blip for him, and you sort of knew that Auburn baseball was going to get back to this point. I mean, it's almost, not almost, it is more impressive now for him and this program to be at this point when you consider the SEC is where it is, and bringing in Texas and Oklahoma. I mean, Texas is right here having their first season, and they're the number one team in the country going into the postseason. And so, I mean, for them to have had such an improved season in the SEC, I mean, it applies to all sports, but it's tougher nowadays, not only Oklahoma and Texas, but it just seems like quality of SEC competition across the board is better in every single sport. And yet, somebody like Auburn baseball, we mentioned Auburn men's golf is able to sort of rise above that.
Nathan, it all goes back to coaching and evaluation and having the resources you need to bring in the right guys. When I say resources, I don't necessarily mean just NIL. I mean, having a place that the culture fits a young man or a young lady, and it's recruiting and leadership, and it's coaching. It's what we call coaching. And Butch, to be able to turn it around like he did, as you're mentioning, is phenomenal. That just doesn't happen. I mean, it's challenging to do that, but it's because of the culture that he's established within his program. It didn't erode. We've seen programs that they have a bad year, and the complete foundation of that culture and what they're trying to do erodes, and it takes a few years to build it back. I think you described it the best of all. It was a blip on the radar because we didn't have the competitive athletes at the same level as others in the SEC did last year. That's just a fact. We couldn't. It meant something to those guys to go to another school because they're going to get more NIL money. It meant something to their family, and that's just the way it worked out. But for Butch to hold all that together and not compromise his integrity or values of Auburn, I mean, it just speaks volumes to the kind of man that he is. And everybody listening, everybody knows the kind of man Butch is, if you paid any attention at all. And then to turn around and look at men's golf, I don't know how many matches they'll have to play to win a national championship, but we need to. I intended to look at that before this visit today. But they'll start playing Friday, and it doesn't conclude until Wednesday. And they play golf every day, and on some days they play 2 rounds of 18. There'll be 30 teams out there and individuals, and you have to win every day to get to Wednesday to play for a national championship. I don't know of an NCAA championship that's more brutal, but it's fair, I guess. Everybody has a chance, so here we go. But that's a long week, to be playing golf. Huh?
You talk about an impressive group.
Man,
they are.
They are impressive. They are and good people. And Nick, man, he is just on top of everything. He is just man. He was born to be an Auburn man. He's just relentless recruiter. And not only a recruiter of athletes, of prospective athletes in his current team, but of Auburn people. He is just so personal and intentional about his relationships with people, regardless of where they are. It could be the $1 trillion donor. It could be somebody just comes out casually. It could be somebody working in the building. Nick just cares about people. And that's those 3 guys we're talking about. There are others too, but those 3 guys we're talking about, Bruce and Nick and Butch. That's their DNA. They're just good people, love people, and treat people right. And and you can do that and win ball games, win golf matches. You're in a pretty good spot. And those guys are obviously at the highest level, and it's a blessing to have them at Auburn. And there are others as well. Some that have been brought on since I've left. I know that they have the same values. If they don't, they won't they won't be at Auburn long.
Well, Jay, it's been great.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you,
Hope
Jay.
everybody has a great. Is it okay? I hope everybody has a great Memorial weekend. I was saying that thinking that maybe this would air before then. I don't know if it will or not. So I hope I didn't screw you up there.
Well,
Nathan.
it'll go up tomorrow. It'll go up tomorrow.
Okay.
On Wednesday.
Okay. All right. Well, everybody be blessed. And Ronnie, take care of yourself, man. Holy smoke.
I
Well,
will.
you got-
I'll be all right.
All right. Well,
Are you coming? Are you coming to Hoover?
I'm not.
Okay.
I'm
I was
not.
gonna say let's get lunch if we are.
Okay. Well, thank you. I'm not going to be there, but thank you.
I'll call you next time I'm in town.
All right, hey, please do. I'd love to catch up. And Nathan, same time, next time we're still in this area zip code together, let me know, man. I'd love to say hello.
I know you were deep in conversation with the man of the hour, so I didn't want
Okay.
to interject.
I was probably giving some advice on, 3-point shooters or something. I don't, who knows.
Probably,
what,
right.
Yeah.